It's a very large reservoir. It's 185,000 surface acres.
On the Texas-Louisiana border, Toledo Bend, by area, is the largest man-made lake in the South.
Toledo Bend has a storied history as a bass fishery going back to the mid-60s when the lake was impounded.
Today, fisheries biologists comb these vast waters to keep a close eye on a couple of dozen largemouth bass.
Toledo Bend itself raised its own bar back in 2015 and 16. It was the bar for every other bass fishery, so it only had one way to go, and that was down.
Keeping the bass fishing bar high is what this work is all about.
We've started a largemouth bass telemetry study. What initiated this study was what turned out to be pretty tough fishing here the last year or two at Toledo Bend for bass.
Todd Driscoll and his crew are trying to increase our understanding of bass behavior to improve fishing success for anglers who flock here.
Bassmaster magazine had Toledo Bend ranked #1 in the world in terms of a bass fishery in year 2015 and 16.
Boom! There's an 8-pounder.
185,000 acres. We're looking forward to this one all year long.
Toledo Bend's always been a popular bass fishing lake, but you can imagine how that fishing pressure increased with the #1 world ranking 2 years in a row.
While fish numbers dropped, reported catches dropped further, raising some questions.
With all this fishing pressure, we, as well as the anglers, began to wonder, are some of these fish literally avoiding boats? As you increase fishing pressure, they get caught a time or two. Fishing can certainly get tougher, and studies have flat proven that bass learn. Are they literally swimming 3 or 4 miles out in the main lake basin to avoid anglers? Those are the things we're going to address with this study. Exactly half our fish we've caught out of deep water, 15 to 30 feet, and the other half we collected essentially from 5 feet to the bank. Now the shallow fish are easy to collect. Our electric fishing boat, that's what we use to index bass populations. Works very well. We've got 12 of those fish tagged. But those deep fish are a challenge. Traditional fishery gears, we have no way of sampling fish, bass in particular, out in 15 to 30 feet. So it actually gives us fisheries biologists a chance to fish.
So a couple of years of fish study work begin, with a couple of days that don't feel like work at all.
I know my whole staff's enjoyed this project, particularly the fishing aspect of things.
Man, this is, I tell you, I don't know whether he needs to pay me or I need to pay the state coming out here.
People give us grief, fisheries biologists, heck, all you guys do is fish. Well, I was afraid of that. Very, very rarely might we get a chance to do that, but this study is actually one of those where it's about the only effective way to catch those deep fish. This is all live data. Probably a little bass right there. One of the drivers of this project has been the advance in sonar electronics. I drop it to the bottom, you can see my weight. You can see the worm above the weight. You really don't stop and fish until you see the fish. That's how good these electronics are. Could be because all this idling out here with these high-end electronics is so common. What might that do to their behavior? We've got 12 fish that we've collected with a rod and reel in 15 to 35 feet or so. Been blessed to have a volunteer help us with that. A retired friend of mine, George Herr. The 3 or 4 days that we have fished for these fish, he's really helped us with that. He's come over here and scouted around a little bit. We'll keep them in a big live well and gather 4 to 8 fish to do surgeries in batching.
With fish on board, a boat slip becomes an operating room, where each fish is implanted with a radio transmitter.
149205. Loud and clear. We know these surgeries, the methodology is very sound, but boy, you're dealing with scalpel and cutting around organs. The first few fish, it was pretty unnerving. You make an incision, 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch long. The transmitter's inserted into the lower body cavity, below all the organs. We also have to route that 18-inch long antenna out through the side of the fish. Once you get a few surgeries under your belt, hold still, it's just pretty routine at that point. In addition to the implanted radio tag, they also have an external pink Floyd tag coming off the top of their back. That Floyd tag has identification number plus my personal cell phone number. And then it gets an intense salt dip for 30 seconds, which just kind of reinvigorates the fish. It stimulates the slime coat that a fish uses to protect itself against infection. Just an added mechanism to increase the survivability of that fish once we release it. Fish certainly have known home ranges, so we release these fish back to where we originally captured them. There you go, back where we caught you. We come track these fish every 2 weeks with telemetry equipment. Just got a hit on it right there. We can detect a fish within about a half-mile distance. Fine-tune it with the handheld antenna. We initiated this study to answer those obvious questions like habitat use, movement, what size their home range is, but then how outboard motor noise, trolling motor noise, just the presence of a boat might affect its behavior.
It's over there.
Okay. Once we're that close, that directionality is so strong that he instantly knows if that fish moves 10 or 15 feet. Still ahead of you? And if we find out that maybe a majority of the time that outboard engine noise spooked those fish, well, that's pretty good information for anglers to know.
It's moving around.
Yeah, no doubt this fish is just on the move here. After today, we've got 24 total fish with transmitters in them. Been a great success so far. We plan on the study continuing for another year to two, depending on transmitter life. So we please ask that any angler that catches one of these fish, give me a call on my cell phone so we can know when and where you caught it and what you're gonna do with that fish. What we certainly hope most of these fish, since they're study fish, they're released. We have a sister lake, if you will, involved in this study, and that's Lake Fork. Both really popular bass lakes.
There we go.
Having Lake Fork involved just increases sample size and is going to help us better answer those questions.
While the questions are about fish behavior, the reasons for asking may be more about local economies.
Bass fishing here in Deep East Texas, I mean, it's king, there's no doubt. And in situations like this where we see a decline in fishing quality, you know, our end product is angler catch.
Pretty fish.
We can have a great population of bass out there, but it's all about the angling experience and the catch factor. This has just been a really fun project. And I think it's going to be real informative for the anglers too. We hope to learn some unique things about bass behavior that no one has ever examined before. And when the study's complete, hopefully we can increase anglers' efficiency and in the end, increase their catch.